The following show is a paid program. This show is brought to you by CH Global Financial Services.
Hey family, what's up? How you doing today? I have a special guest on today. Before I introduce her, I first want to send prayers out to the family of Mayor Leonard Scarcella, who was mayor of Stafford, city of Stafford, for over 50 years. He was the longest living mayor in America. So we want to send prayers out to his family and condolences. But thank you for joining the Cam Hill Show on A-Star. On today, I have a real good friend of mine. Her name is DEIRDRE Gilbert. She is the National Director of National Medical Malpractice Advocacy Group. Hey, DEIRDRE, how you doing, lady?
Hi, how are you?
Oh, man, I am so excited you're here because I always wanted to talk about the topic of medical malpractice during COVID-19. Yeah. And I know we're going into this. I appreciate you coming on today. The first thing I want to say, first of all, is thank you for coming. And I appreciate you. But the thing about it, how did you get involved in medical malpractice?
Well, I'm going to say, like the most of us, we call ourselves the accidental advocate.
Yes.
Okay. It's sort of like we tripped ourselves into this, not actually knowing what medical malpractice is, just like anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
About 10 years ago, my daughter became the victim, and I always say that, from medical malpractice due to a medical error that was done in a hospital system. And I realized as I was going along, and again, being that accidental advocate, had no idea what medical malpractice looked like. I started just looking into this, and there was no agency in the state, the county, the country that was addressing the needs of those that had been affected by this. And so therefore, I created a nonprofit, got some doctors and nurses and attorneys on board. And here we are with the National Medical Malpractice Advocacy Association.
That sounds great. The first thing everybody wants to know is, what is medical malpractice? What is it?
Well, it's something that's done in a medical setting.
Yes.
And it's when a medical professional actually deviates from what they call the standard of care.
Yes, absolutely.
And so that means that they're deviating from the standard of care, right? And it's some sort of harm, whether it's medical medication or an error, as they would call it in the medical community. So it can happen in a nursing home, it can happen in a hospital, or it can happen again from medication error. So it's a deviation from what they would consider that a normal doctor would do in the standard of care. So that's what medical malpractice is.
Now, DEIRDRE, we know that people, or I know several people, that when their family members go and they take them to emergency, they cannot go back with them. So they're alone in that setting. And that's during COVID-19. Let's speak about that and let's talk about that and somewhat a medical malpractice happens.
Well, we didn't know exactly the reasoning, you know, why a lot of the family members weren't allowed to go in.
Right.
It wasn't until later that we found out that the hospitals and the medical system, I'm going to say the manufacturing companies, everybody that was involved in, I guess, the testing, the distribution of all of this, asked for some sort of waiver that just in case something happened, they did not want to be sued. They didn't want a lawsuit.
Right.
And so there was a waiver that was created, or there was a law or an amendment that was passed used to allow hospitals to, I'm going to say, not allow family members to come into a hospital setting or to a nursing home to see what their loved ones was. And they used COVID-19 as the reasoning. In every pandemic or in every type of medical things that's going on, we're going to say pandemic because that's what we're working with right now. What they do is they ask for some sort of assistance so that they can protect other people from what is going on. So in this case, we're talking about the coronavirus.
Right.
So they asked for this waiver, right? And
Right.
they wanted people to be able to, we don't want anyone to get infected. So we need everybody else to stay away and we're going to take care of this. Now, what did that do, right? What did that do for you as, your person's loved one?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're still sort of like shaking our head because we're really not understanding the dynamics of this or, what was the reasoning behind it. And that's what was real scary about it. And so basically, again, they asked for a waiver.
Right.
Okay. They asked for a waiver in this particular instance so that they would not be able to be sued in the case something happened to your loved one in a hospital setting.
Right. So now that we see that, you cannot go back there with your family member, but your family member, just for example, may have to be on a ventilator. So they can't speak at this point. They're in emergency. They've rushed them in. They cannot talk. This waiver is in place. And there's an act in place to protect that. Let's talk about that act that's in place.
Okay, so it's called the PrEP Act, and it's called the Public Readiness and Emergency Preparedness Act.
Yes.
Basically, it authorized the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services actually to, again, to dismiss or to allow hospitals and other people who were involved in COVID-19 from liability,
Right.
except for what they call willful misconduct, right?
Right.
Well, it basically was from the development, manufacturing, testing, distribution, and the administration of any countermeasures as related to COVID-19, which means that it sort of covered everything.
Yes.
So then your nursing homes, and then your hospitals and your businesses, they spoke with their state legislative leaders or the governors, and they also asked for immunity, okay, through the PrEP Act so that they would not be able to be sued for anything or any decision, whether good or bad,
Yes.
that they made during COVID-19.
Right.
Now,
Right.
when you ask me, it take me back for today. I had a call this morning, actually. I'm going to say last night from a church member where one of our church members is in the hospital.
Right.
And very frantic family member, very frantic, right? And not understanding why they couldn't go to the hospital.
Right.
So I tried to explain that to them. They have these rules in place. You can't see your loved one. However, I said, well, let me call. I called the CEO's office as I told them that I would do. And I first looked on, online just to see what your rules were.
Right.
And sure enough, their rules were nobody was allowed. And that was pretty much it. So I talked to the CEO and they sent me to patient care. Spoke to patient care and I explained to them, I said, it's very strange that you could take a loved one and just wish them away without anyone knowing exactly what's going on.
Right.
And I understand that, there's for protection of other patients, but this particular patient is not a COVID patient. It's not COVID, just a regular patient going in, right? And I said, what we need to do is to find out if there are other measures that we could take.
Right.
So that we can make sure that our senior citizens are taken care of. Because like you said, Maybe they can't speak for themselves.
Right.
They can't talk. And those were the questions that I told them. I said, if they can't answer any questions or they can't say what they are allergic to, that would not be very good. And I believe that there should be some changes to that. And sure enough, she said, well, that's not in stone. We can, we can do a case by case.
Wow.
And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
But nobody knows that you can do a case by case, right?
Right.
And I said, well, what about a power of attorney? She says, well, power of attorney, it won't help you get in. I said, but it does help, because if you don't have a power of attorney, you can't make decisions for the loved one that's in the hospital. And so with that being said, there are reasons why they would not allow you, but it's just a matter of knowing who to talk to and asking those questions.
Yes.
Right? Because as I told her, we were very silent in the beginning of this pandemic.
Right.
Where we were like not asking any questions. We let you take our families in. I said there were too many deaths.
Yes.
Right. And let's talk about that, because I was reading this article today about this nursing homes, especially the ones that want immunity, right?
Right.
And sure enough, it stated that 2.1 million, now we're talking about 2.1 million nursing homes and long-term care facilities.
Yes.
That's a lot. That's 0.6% of our population. Now, almost 70% of that population died.
Wow. Out of the 2 million, 2.1 million.
Well, that's just overall, right?
Right.
And we're talking about during the time of COVID. Yes,
right.
That was the number. And we're talking about 70% of those that were going into these facilities without anyone being able to see what's going on. We're talking about 70%.
Yes.
That's a lot of
yes.
people who lost their lives without a loved one being anywhere
right.
in sight.
Right.
And again, if something happens, and let's just say, when we talk about the PrEP Act, just what I just told you about, the distribution, the medications, the testing, what if they made a mistake?
Yes.
And we're talking about a gross mistake.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that any of us would be able to find that out, right?
Right.
Unless someone speaks up. We spoke earlier when we talked about the nurses who came forward. Without someone coming forward with that information, I think we're lost. Because again, there's no way that we can determine anything willful, because the only way you can do that is if someone says that they're going to hurt or harm your loved one. And that's literally impossible that, we believe that somebody's going to say that.
So Deirdre,
I don't believe that.
Let's put a picture to this, so people that are watching right now, our viewers, understand what we're saying. So you cannot go back. So you don't know during this period of time that your loved one is in the hospital at this point. You don't know if they can breathe successfully. You don't know if their fever is gone up. You don't know if they're in an immense amount of pain, because you don't see them. Usually when we're in a family member is in a hospital, somebody usually stays overnight or stays. Then they're able to tell the nurse, hey, nurse, my family member's not breathing. They're sweating a lot. They're having a tough time. They have a lot of pain. But without you being back there, you have no knowledge.
You have no knowledge. And that takes me back to another person who called, and her daughter actually not passed away, but she passed out at home, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
And the ambulance picked her up and took her on to the hospital, and they told her family, you cannot come back.
Right.
Well, knowing that this particular person was not able to speak for themselves, I called the hospital again.
Yes.
And this is where you have to be really pushy, sort of,
Yeah.
And I had to call the hospital, and I said, well, wait a minute. Someone came into your hospital unconscious, without being able to tell you their name, whether they were allergic to any medications, or give you the right to do anything. And this is where we're talking about informed consent.
Yes.
Now, I was like, well, do you not know that if something happens to that person in your care, and they wouldn't even give the family members any information like over the phone. And I was like, but do you not know that that would be considered medical malpractice? Because that's willful conduct, because you're taking care of a person who's unconscious.
Right. Right.
And so having an agency or entity like us works.
Right.
You know, they're more prone to be able to talk to us, especially if we say, well, we're calling for the medical malpractice advocacy. You know, we're not trying to threaten anybody, but it's sort of like when people know that they are being watched.
Yes. Yes.
Are accountable for their behaviors, then they're prone to act a little bit better.
Yes.
And we're finding that in the process of COVID-19, there is so much going on. We know that nurses are overworked. We know that doctors are being overworked. We understand that. But again, we also understand that family members need to know what is going on with their loved ones, and not just looking at a video like you and I.
Yes.
It's okay if it's like you're just in there, you're doing fine, and me and you can speak.
Yes.
But once I give you some medication, right?
Yes.
Or once I put you on a ventilator.
Yes.
As I stated, somebody needs to be able to put an eye on their loved one.
Yes. And we understand the fact that we understand the fact about you're trying to protect also the family member too from getting it. We understand that part. We do. We understand that piece.
Right.
That you don't want them to then get it and then they take it home to their family. We understand that piece. But many times you have elderly, you have dementia, you have Alzheimer's, you have, you know what I'm saying? You have Down syndrome, you have autism, you know, children with autism or family members with autism that cannot speak for themselves. And we want to make sure that they are protected also.
Absolutely. Because we found out too that a lot of the special needs population, like you said, most of them are so used to having a routine.
Yes.
And someone to watch them, to take care of them. You know, my daughter was special needs, so I can just understand that pain of somebody taking your loved one away from you, and they don't understand why.
Right.
And then what happens with special needs children, they get combative.
Yes.
If they get combative, then most likely they give them medications and tie them down, which we have been told that has happened.
Yes.
Well, what does that do to your loved one that really didn't understand why was I taken away from the only thing that I knew that I could trust to take care of me? And so again, it goes back to knowing what their rights are, what your rights are.
Right.
You know, getting in contact with an organization like us.
Yes.
And also being able to know that you have the power of attorney, because in those instances, a hospital should not allow you to be able to see your child, especially in those instances. And that, again, is where you need to push your legislative leaders.
Yes.
You know, call them up and say, look, I have a special needs child in there. And we need to know how we can get in there, put some eyes on that person. Right. You know, on the loved one. We need to know and do that.
Yes. And especially if you have somebody that is elderly, dementia, and Alzheimer's, they don't recall or know who anybody is, really.
Right.
But they've seen you, the person, on a consistent basis.
Yes. And that brings in other things like suicide.
Yes.
That has been something that has been coming up in our conversations as related to COVID. A lot of, family members are committing suicide because they are just distraught
Yes.
at the fact that, you know, they have their loved ones, and then let's just say the loved one passed away. And in the beginning of COVID, there was a lot of families who were not even to, weren't even able to put their
Yes.
families to. And can you imagine that type of trauma, to know that, your mom, your dad, your sister, brother, cousin,
Wow.
friends were just taken away. And then on top of that, many didn't even know where their loved ones were after the death. And then you couldn't bury them. I mean, that's traumatizing
Wow.
on anybody.
Absolutely.
It's very traumatizing.
Right. When we come back, we will continue to talk to Deirdre Gilbert more about medical malpractice during COVID-19.
We'll be right back to the Cam Hill Show after these messages.
Houston's only Cadillac to your door dealer, Ron Carter Cadillac, delivers test drives to your home or office. For a limited time, get $16,000 off all in-stock Cadillac 2019 XT5 crossovers and $19,000 off all in-stock 2019 CT6 sedans. Or experience the first ever 2020 Cadillac XT6 Premium Luxury Collection, only $519 with $1 down for 39 months lease. Or purchase and receive 0.9% APR for 72 months with no payments until November. RonCarterCadillac.com.
When it comes to protecting yourself and your partners, all the information out there can be overwhelming. Visit our website. We are a free and confidential service striving to help you stay informed and stay notified. We are committed to a healthy Houston.
Houston's only Cadillac to your door dealer, Ron Carter Cadillac, delivers test drives to your home or office. Drive the new 2020 Cadillac XT4, only $399 a month, or the new 2020 XT5, only $429 a month, both for 39 months lease with just $1 down. Or purchase the XT4 or XT5 and enjoy 0.9% APR for 72 months with no payments until November. RonCarterCadillac.com.
Our story begins more than 60 years ago inside an abandoned chicken coop where our founder discovered a retired teacher living. No home, no health care. So she said no to this injustice and yes to transforming lives. It's this drive, this compassion that inspired AARP. Today we empower people to choose how they live as they age. We advocate for health and financial security. We strengthen communities everywhere. We are AARP, creating real possibilities.
And now back to the Cam Hill Show.
Welcome back, family. I'm telling you, I'm having a great time talking to Deirdre Gilbert. She is the National Director of the National Medical Malpractice Advocacy Group. Deirdre, you have, thank you for doing this.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
It is the reason I say I'm so excited is such an eye-opening. I've heard so many horror stories from family members to tell me their family members have gone in and they know for sure they should have at least been okay in some way once coming out.
Absolutely.
Not that they were the best, but they just knew about, as far as symptoms and things like that. Let's talk about insurance too. When someone is uninsured versus somebody insured, we haven't said that we don't know now. Okay, we don't know if that's the case. But many people have gone in that are uninsured, in some of the places, same times with people that are insured.
Now, we've heard of the disparities.
Yes.
Okay. And I believe that that's a conversation right now.
Yes. Yes.
There are disparities in healthcare as it relates to insurance.
Right.
I want to say that during COVID-19, I believe it affect, the communities such as, I'm going to say poorer communities, those that don't have don't go to the doctor very much.
Right.
Can't afford insurance.
Yes.
But I don't think that COVID-19 really cares.
No, it doesn't.
And I say that because during the time of this, hospitals were receiving compensation for every COVID patient. There was about $36,000 for every COVID patient or everyone that was diagnosed as a
Yes.
COVID patient.
Uh-huh.
They were getting incentive pay. And this was through Medicare. And this is one of the things that we actually wanted. Everybody's been speaking about it, Medicare for all.
Right.
And it seems like, okay, if you can give hospitals this advantage or this incentive to do this during COVID, then to me, the billions and billions of dollars that was used for this, why not give everybody Medicare for all, right?
Right.
And nobody has to worry about insurance forever and always.
Right.
You wouldn't have to worry about it. And there's money. I mean, it's okay for Medicare for all because, in the time of COVID, that is what they're using to pay their bills in the hospital.
Yes.
And now what's really something is there have been people, I believe there was an African-American gentleman who survived COVID. He received a $1 million medical bill after he got out.
What?
And then another person received another $500,000 medical bill after they got out.
Right.
Nobody can pay that.
Right.
Cam. Nobody can afford it. Right. I don't know, the richest person in the world wouldn't even want to pay that.
Right.
But not only were they getting an incentive, and they build your insurance as well.
Right.
And the bills is outlandish.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what you see what I'm saying. So
absolutely,
insurance is very important, but in the time of COVID, it really didn't matter.
Right.
Because they were getting an incentive.
And I think the other thing, when we were talking about the insurance, your family member is sick.
Right.
In emergency.
Yes.
Going through, cannot breathe. In pain.
Yes.
Whatever the symptoms may be, to get them there through emergency, and you're not asking them for an insurance card or anything because they can't speak. They're in stress.
Absolutely. They can't. So I don't know who they're billing,
right.
And how they're billing or how this stuff is set up.
Right.
Because again,
you can't go in with them.
Right. And they're not talking to you because they won't give you any information over the phone.
Right.
So here we go again with another issue that needs to be addressed, right? Of maybe this could be, we call it a time of opportunity. We understand that, a lot of people are good people, right?
Yes.
But we also know that in the time of opportunity such as this, we have people that come out and do the wrong thing. Let's say when they were doing the testing.
Yes.
And it started actually in New York.
Uh-huh.
And this company set up a testing center as if they were working for whoever testing people. And they took off with these people's DNA. Right?
Right.
And nobody knows where these people are. And come to find out that this entity or this group of people had done this stuff before in prior pandemics, where they set up tents, tested, and took the people's DNA and all of their information. Here in Houston, we had what? I don't know how many. They said they couldn't find the information from some of the testing people that they tested right here in Houston. And nobody knows how to get in contact with those that they tested. That's another way of time of opportunity during COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
That's strange.
Yes.
That and we're talking about people's personal information, like your telephone number, your social security number, I'm sure. And it just disappeared altogether, just
Wow.
gone.
Wow.
And as I said, this is a time of opportunity, because if I'm not saying hospitals this, but I do know that there has been written documentation that if I can say that you have COVID and I'm making $36,000 a pop, wow, that's a lot of money. And I mean, the advocacy groups, we're sort of like shaking our head as to why hospitals would even get an incentive.
Wow.
To diagnose you as COVID. And the thing is that there were two ways that they can diagnose you or code this.
Right.
And it was died from COVID or died with. Now, do you know the difference between the two?
Okay, let's explain that difference to people. Let's explain it.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's say you went in for, let's just asthma.
Right.
You hadn't been tested just yet, right?
Right.
And they put you in this room, and they have different stages of admittance. So they put you in a place, and you're waiting for your test results, but you went in for asthma.
Right.
Still haven't gotten your test results yet.
Yes.
So you don't know. All of a sudden, you get moved from your room to a room with a COVID patient.
Wow.
While they're waiting for your results.
Yes.
And during that time, you have people coming in and out of your room where you can become infected at any time, at any place.
Uh-huh.
So after that, now all of a sudden you get tested again and you have COVID. They begin treatment with you.
Right.
Right? And you get worse. And now you're on these ventilators.
Right.
Right? Wow.
You can't speak.
Now you didn't die from COVID. You died with it.
Yes.
Because you came in with asthma.
Right.
You see, I wasn't diagnosed with COVID at first. So I came with asthma, but I'm going to code this, and the CDC actually approved this. They approved them to be able to say that you die, and it's on their website, that you can code it with it. And I don't know if that means that it laid next to you, and here we are. We're with you, and and we're going to get paid because we said it's with you, but not from it. And so that is what we call the time of opportunity, when people can manipulate certain things, which we feel that may be illegal. However, because they have already received immunity in some sort of form of way, again, testing, the diagnosis, the behavior, the manufacturing, whatever it may be, is thrown out the window. And there's, it's almost like we can do whatever we want to do. Matter of fact, one of the nurses said that there was a dentist that was actually taking care of people in the hospital for COVID.
A dentist?
Yes, a dentist. And so it's like, so before this even was going on anyway, we were investigating, doctors not having licenses and all of this stuff.
Right.
But again, this is a time of opportunity, right? Because you don't know who they hired. We don't know where they got these people from. And again, we're talking about a dentist that was allowed to intubate a patient.
Right.
They should not have had the right to intubate a patient.
Wow. A dentist.
Okay. A dentist. And these are the types of things that when we're talking about time of opportunity.
Right.
Where people take advantage of the system or advantage of the time frame that we're in. And because we have no knowledge, right? We didn't even know what COVID-19 was.
Right.
The only people that I was told that probably knew that this existed were some of our legislative leaders who knew that this was coming down the pipe because they were creating the laws to protect before it even hit the fan.
Right.
And we had hospital systems. We knew they knew.
Right.
But we were out, we're like rolling around in the dark. I mean, in March, I was out celebrating.
Yes, absolutely. We all were. Yeah.
Celebrating. Had no idea this was going on, but you're saying it happened last year. So we're all, you see what I'm saying? So it was a time of opportunity.
Right.
Where once you give someone immunity, that's not good. And we talked about this a little bit because we can relate this to police brutality. Because this type of stuff happens in the hospital, and I call it medical brutality. That can happen.
Yes, it can happen.
At any given time. I mean, it was happening before now. We couldn't sue before.
Right.
But now it's almost like we're giving you free reign as to making decisions as to what kind of medication we can give you, whether we can give you treatment or not, because there are doctors now who are frantic and nurses who are frantic. Matter of fact, in that letter or in the nurses' lawsuit, they were talking about how they were told who and who not to give, help.
Absolutely.
To.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So how do they determine who they want to give help to and who not? Matter of fact, a friend of mine who is also an advocate, she sent me an article of a young man who he was married, and I think he had 5 children, had a stroke, went into a nursing home, ended up into the hospital with COVID, and he couldn't do what he used to do. And he was told that because his life was not important and his life would never be the same.
Wow. So
therefore they denied him treatment. She sent me and she says, I'm in tears because, can you imagine a person who was a father,
right?
Who
provider.
Took care of their family, right? They took care of their family.
Yeah, provider
and everything. And then I have a stroke. I can't speak. I can't do for myself anymore. I get sick. I'm put in a hospital where I can no longer see my family. Family have no idea what's wrong with me.
Right.
And they denied me treatment based on the fact that they said that my life would be nothing.
Right.
And I can relate to that because when my daughter, who was also special needs,
right,
that was the same thing that the doctor stated, that she had lived long enough.
Wow.
Who makes those decisions? And they were like, we have a certain amount of material or we have a certain amount of equipment. So this person will get it, but you're not who. And we don't know what that looks like, right? We don't know if it's our color of the skin.
Yes.
We don't know if it's our age. We don't know if it's our disability.
Yes.
But do we think that hospitals should make that determination? And these are the types of things that it didn't happen. It didn't start at COVID. Okay. It's been started long time ago. However, this is the time of opportunity where now we can say that we had the right to do what we needed to do.
Wow. When we come back, we will continue to speak more about what does medical malpractice look like during COVID-19.
We'll be right back to the Cam Hill Show after these messages.
comes to protecting yourself and your partners, all the information out there can be overwhelming. Visit our website. We are a free and confidential service striving to help you stay informed and stay notified. We are committed to a healthy Houston.
Houston's only Cadillac to your door dealer, Ron Carter Cadillac, delivers test drives to your home or office. Drive the new 2020 Cadillac XT4, only $399 a month. Or the new 2020 XT5, only $429 a month. Both for 39 months lease with just $1 down. Or purchase the XT4 or XT5 and enjoy 0.9% APR for 72 months with no payments until November. RonCarterCadillac.com.
Our story begins more than 60 years ago inside an abandoned chicken coop where our founder discovered a retired teacher living. No home, no health care. So she said no to this injustice and yes to transforming lives. It's this drive, this compassion that inspired AARP. Today we empower people to choose how they live as they age. We advocate for health and financial security. We strengthen communities everywhere. We are AARP, creating real possibilities.
Houston's only Cadillac to your door dealer, Ron Carter Cadillac, delivers test drives to your home or office. For a limited time, get $16,000 off all in-stock Cadillac 2019 XT5 crossovers and $19,000 off all in-stock 2019 CT6 sedans. Or experience the first ever 2020 Cadillac XT6 Premium Luxury Collection, only $519 with $1 down for 39 months lease. Or purchase and receive 0.9% APR for 72 months with no payments until November. RonCarterCadillac.com.
And now back to the Cam Hill Show.
Thank you so much, family, for returning with me. Deirdre Gilbert, National Director. Hey, Deirdre, how you doing?
I'm good, Cam.
Oh, man,
Thank
we have
you.
been talking about some great stuff, medical malpractice during COVID-19. One of the things so many people have been asking me about is why are African American people dying at alarming rates during this time? And we know a little bit about pre-existing conditions. Let's talk about that.
Now that is a little disturbing because I'm not real sure as to why COVID-19 is just attached to African Americans so much. I asked that question as if, does it have a some kind of system on top of the head or something? That's an African American person there. So I'm not real sure, Cam, because I understand the pre-existing conditions.
Right.
But we all have those.
Right.
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 And these are the conversations that I have all the time is, I'm always digging deep into.
I know you are.
So I'm like, does it have a GPS on it? Say, I'm going to go into this neighborhood and I'm going to choose this person or this person because this person is African American.
Right.
Now, I understand that there are disparities in healthcare, the disparities in what we do as it relates to having insurance and all of that.
Yeah.
However, I am not real sure how we are attacked with viruses because of our color of our skin. I don't understand the concept. And you're laughing, but it's
I'm
serious.
saying that because of all of the conversations the two of us have had based on this, you know?
And so it's sort of like there are underlying conditions, but
Yes,
I'm always, I'm a science person and I have like 26 years science background.
Right.
So I'm digging, right? So I'm asking the question, there's a cause and effect. And you're saying that this was a respiratory problem in the beginning of the conversation. So if it is a respiratory problem, that simply means that everybody can catch this. This shouldn't be just because I'm African American. Now, it may affect us more because we may have not been to the hospital We may not have seen a doctor, but as we have been looking into this COVID-19, we're not real sure,
right?
As to where it came from. I mean, they're not real sure,
right,
what it looks like. They don't even know if it's in the air. They said at first it was in the air, then it was you get it on the doorknob. Then then it was, I don't know. Then they said something about flushing the toilet, that it out of the toilet when you flush it. So I'm not real sure, Cam.
Right,
That's something that bothers me, because there was a conversation that was made, and even they put it on CNN and all these places, that the vaccine would not work without the Black participation.
Right.
And again, they were upset at people of color, because people of color was like, no, no, no. We remember the Tuskegee experiment.
Yes.
And they said, no, this is not like that. But we haven't seen anything but a lot of African Americans dying in the midst of this. And so those of us who know about the Tuskegee, right?
Right.
And we're teaching our children about history. I think our families are now getting into Black history. We're learning our history more and more as time comes.
Right.
That we're not wanting to be guinea pigs. We've heard where they wanted to go to Africa and to, do vaccinations on them, and they actually call them prostitutes and say, well, they're prostitutes, and we can go over there and vaccinate them. And one of the basketball players or something was like, no, you all are not coming back over here and do what you did with Ebola.
Wow.
And we're not just going to allow you to use us as guinea pigs.
Yes.
And I believe that we have been so harmed,
yes,
by not just the medical community in whole, but just by America, as to the color of our skin. And so now we're getting very leery of trust.
Right.
And so I don't believe it has a color. I do believe that it's targeted. And whenever someone can say that there are going to be, 20,000 people, you have to ask yourself, how would you know that? I mean, unless have an area targeted. I mean, you have to know that. I mean, I don't know how you would know that unless it's planned, but you wouldn't know that it's planned, right? I don't think I would know. But to say in the beginning, when they were giving out statistics about African Americans and how many would pass away from this time, that scared us. That scared us.
Right.
But also brought researching and understanding, we don't want to be that.
Yes.
And when we didn't test, it wasn't because we didn't want to be tested. I believe it's because we couldn't trust that our tests were going to be done the right way. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that our loved ones would be taken away from us. And, and as African Americans, where we have come from, we have, we're all about family.
Right.
We're family and we're strong.
Right.
And we want to be with our loved ones.
Right.
We're not the kind of people that were putting our loved ones in nursing homes and just dropping them off or just leave them.
Right.
So I believe that is probably our problem, more so than the color of our skin.
Right.
But I believe in my heart that there's something to it.
Right.
We just got to figure out what that is.
Well, the other thing we want to talk about too is that the statute of limitations, if you feel medical malpractice has happened to your loved one. Let's talk about that, the 2 years.
Okay, so when a even before COVID, there was what they call a statute of limitation.
Yes.
And that is the time that you have to sue someone if you felt that they harmed you or it ended in a death. Well, in the state of Texas, it's 2 years. Other states, it's between 1 year and 2 years. By that time, people probably don't even know what actually happened to them. And let's talk about it in respect to COVID-19.
Yes.
When the PrEP Act was initiated, they put a time frame on it. And they put a time frame from now until 2023, which means they put a time frame on immunity. That is about the time frame for medical malpractice for you to file a lawsuit, right?
Yes.
And that simply means that a person who finally, once we finally get to the point where we are able to sit down, breathe a little bit, relax and understand the dynamics of what has happened, that time is probably going to be gone. And then you think about, what? Something wasn't right. My loved one went in and didn't come out. My loved one was doing okay, happy when I talked to them, and the next thing I know, they didn't come out. And you want to file a lawsuit. Well,
Yes.
during the time of COVID, during the time of this pandemic, it's going to be literally impossible to sue unless we talk about willful conduct. And this is where I talk to you a little bit about the terminology that they use. And this is pretty much the same terminology that they're using as it relates to police brutality. It's called willful misconduct. And the only way you can actually prove this is someone actually say that, okay, I woke up this morning and yes, this is what I was planning to do. And let me kind of give you a little background so you can kind of understand what we mean when we talk about willful conduct and how hard it is to prove this just based on even if you had an autopsy report or medical records to show that they did something wrong. Willful misconduct means that you had to prove the state of mind that this particular person was in. And neither you or I can't tell you right now what state of mind you're in unless you tell me, right?
Right, absolutely.
So there was a Dr. Douche, from a Dallas surgeon who was a well-known surgeon for doing back surgeries and had went to the best of schools, had the best, everything, came from the best household. Well, it came to be that he had harmed and I'm going to say several people died, 30, maybe 40 people who were harmed became paraplegics because of the surgeries that he was doing. During this time, Dr. Douche was doing drugs, cocaine, all kinds of stuff, and his colleagues started to speak against him, and they called him Dr. Death. One of the attorneys that worked with our organization, she worked on this case, and sure enough, he is in prison right now, but it wasn't because of what he did in the surgery room. It wasn't because of what he did, what his colleagues wrote, right? It
Yes.
wasn't all the complaints that were written. It was, he wrote an email to a friend and said that he liked to kill people.
Wow.
They were about to lose this case. And the only thing that saved this case was the fact that he wrote it in writing.
Yes.
But it didn't matter that there was evidence of people sitting in wheelchairs, right?
Right.
People who had buried their loved ones, doctors who had written thousands and thousands of letters saying, hey, this man needs to go.
Right.
He can, he should not be practicing medicine anywhere. That didn't matter. It was only because they could prove willful misconduct by what he said
Wow.
in written documentation.
Yes.
So that's how medical malpractice works now. is that it's literally impossible for us to file lawsuits. They're even getting to the point now, Cam, where we used to, we call them where we have all of these lawsuits where everybody comes together and they file, right?
Right. Class action.
Class action lawsuits. Well, now they want laws made where you can't sue unless you have the same injury.
Wow.
So you remember with the Aaron Brockovich story, right?
Right.
The people in the Aaron Brockovich story, this was a real story where everybody was harmed by drinking the water, and the water was tainted with chemicals from one of the chemical plants. There was another movie that just came out called Dark Waters, and it's about DuPont and Teflon, right? Well, they just lost a huge lawsuit, like $671 billion, and it took this attorney 20 years to do this case. Now, they don't want that anymore, so now they're asking that a law be passed that you can only sue if your injury is the same. So let's say your left kidney, you harm your left kidney and I harmed my right kidney, and someone else harmed their left kidney. But everybody whose kidney on the left was harmed, they can sue, but the one on the right kidney can't. So they're wanting to cut it out. How is that possible, that everybody's injuries is going to be the same injury in the same place?
Absolutely. So Deirdre, let's find out. People are wanting to know, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, go to Facebook, and we're at the National Medical Malpractice Advocacy Association page. We have two pages. One is for chapter directors, and then the other one is the page where we post everything. Phone number, web page is all there. You can call me. My phone number is there. Again, the website is there. You can send me an email. That email contact is there. And that's how you contact us.
The assistance that you give. Let's tell a little bit about real quickly about in a minute, the assistance that you all give to the people, to the families.
Basically, we help to anyone that's looking for help as it relates to medical negligence or medical malpractice. Now, during the time of COVID, and even if it's not medical negligence and you need help like a nursing home, give me a call. And we're free of charge. I don't charge any fee. I've just been blessed that God has given me the knowledge to share. And, it would behoove me to not share it. And then it would be wrong for me to charge a fee for something that God gave me a gift to do. So that's it.
Thank you, lady. That's the end of the show. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Deirdre Gilbert, my friend, National Director, National Medical Malpractice Advocacy Association. You know where to find her on Facebook, and she has a website. On tomorrow, I have a friend of mine. His name is Dr. Casual Pitts. You have to come. He's a celebrity entrepreneur. He will tell you how to make your dream work. Thank you for looking at the Cam Hill Show on A-Star. See you tomorrow.